With confidence.
This is Times Radio Breakfast.
9:46. Next month there are elections in Iran, but elections where there is little free speech and where the candidates have rigorously been vetted by the Guardian Council. The 7 candidates they have allowed are mostly hardline, and the frontrunner is the current head of the judiciary, who has overseen the executions of thousands of political prisoners. Those not happy with this state of affairs struggle to protest about it because they fear arrest and attacks. I've been speaking to one pro-democracy activist who we're not naming for their safety, and she supports the candidate for the People's Mojahedin of Iran, who isn't allowed on the ballot paper.
In Iran, election is a joke. All of the candidates are the same, and all people of Iran know this. In the past 40 years, election in Iran have never been about the expression of popular choice. It has always been a selection by the supreme leader. But this year it is very clear to the world. In Iran, women are being treated as second-class citizens. They have no rights, but women, especially young women, are fighting back.
What are you actually doing? How are you fighting back, as you put it?
This year's situation is not comparable to 4 years ago at all. There is a different atmosphere here nowadays. None of my friends and families would vote. The Iranian people are boycotting this mock election. The Iranian people's true vote is the regime's overthrow. They want a democratic republic. And as a team, a few days ago, we set up a large banner showing Mojahedin call to boycott the election and picture of opposition leader Mrs. Maryam Rajavi on a Tehran highway. A few people saw us but wished us well. We saw with our own eyes the extent to which the Iranian people support us, and this popular support gives us the heart to continue our work. People say that these regimes killed our young people in the street in November 2019. Are we crazy to vote for them? What would happen after we vote? The killings would continue, but this regime. And the Iranian people don't worry about the results of this election, because if Mr. Raisi will be our president, the Iran president, the Iranian people will be closer to uprising and changing this regime and get the democracy and republic.
Why do you say that if Mr. Raisi wins the election, as it's thought he might, if he succeeds Hassan Rouhani, succeeding him as someone who's even more hardline, why do you think that would actually bring Iran closer to some kind of revolution, some kind of true democracy? Why do you think that would happen?
The Iran today is very different. The regime is very weak. Their number one worry is people uprising and the protests. There were 3 big nationwide protests in the last 3 years. People wanted the regime change and to dictatorship and to rule of the mullahs. In 2019, we came very close to overthrow the regime. People's rage is even more now than 2019. The regime is facing an explosive society. There are daily protests by virtually every sector. The economy is bankrupt. Corruption is very bad. People hate the mullahs. They hate whoever is with the mullahs.
So in terms of what you would like to see from Western nations as we get closer to this election, what do you want? Should people be still negotiating in terms of the nuclear deal? Should there be more sanctions? What would you like to see from the West?
We hate the policy of appeasement. Western governments should not deal with mullahs. Any deal with the mullahs will help repression and killing of the Iranian people. It will help the regime get nuclear weapons. West should stand by the Iranian people and hear our cries for freedom and democracy. They should say this election and this regime are illegitimate. We want West to put more sanction on the regime, its official, its leader for human rights terror. We know the enemy is not the West. The enemy are the mullahs. Khamenei and Raisi should be put on trial for all their murder and terror. They don't represent us. This regime doesn't show mercy to its own people and kills them. Why should such a terrorist regime have a good relation with West and the United States? The policy of appeasement with the West helps the Iranian regime acquire nuclear weapons. And the Iranian people want the Guardian Corps to be included in the terrorist list. I should indicate to this point that the Mojahedin is the democratic alternative of this regime, and the West and the United States should support her for her 10 points plan for Iran.
That's a pro-democracy activist I've been speaking to in Iran ahead of those elections on the 18th of June. As she explained, they're supporting this candidate who isn't allowed on the ballot paper. So many of them aren't allowed on the ballot paper. And as we heard there, amidst all those pressures and worries about what happens if you speak out, they're unfurling banners on sort of main roads in Tehran and the likes of that. So quite dangerous stuff she's doing.
It's 8 minutes to 10 now. Now, of course, it's the All-English Champions League final tonight in Portugal. Manchester City